Well, welcome back to the podcast. I'm super excited to have Lee on today to share her success with macro counting. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Kelly Mosdy, owner and founder of Kelly Counts Macros. I'm known for my signature 8-week program, The Shred, also known for membership, Kelly Counts Macros Clubhouse. I take my busy clients from being frustrated, overwhelmed, not losing weight, and not having the tone muscles that they desire to losing weight to reveal toe muscles. I like to keep it super simple. I love to use the word KISS, KISS. I like to keep everything simple. I know my busy clients do as well. So I want to welcome Lee. Lee, who had lots of bad food habits and a mindset that was kind of brought to the surface. During our weekly check-ins, we talked through how to avoid overeating. And I'll be honest with you, when I set up this interview with Lee, I started to think about how far she has come. I couldn't help but think, what if she had told herself, I don't have time for macro counting? I'm nowhere near ready for this commitment. I do not have money for a coach. I'm going on vacation. Where do you think she would be now, right? Stuck. Just all those justifications win in our brains. She wouldn't have the confidence, the overeating would still be out of control, smile not as big, frustrated, overwhelmed, wasting time, completely stuck, perhaps feeling like a failure every Monday. But she did sign up for macro counting with me. Her results are amazing. So, enough about me. We want to hear from Lee. So, welcome, Lee. Thank you for sharing your macro counting story. Tell us a little bit about you. Who are you and what do you do?
Yes, thank you for having me. So my name is Lee Nguyen. I am a stay-at-home homeschooling mom who also has a little bit of a side hustle. I have a homeschool podcast called Little by Little Homeschool, and I host that as well as I host an in-person homeschool conference. And so my kids keep me busy. I'm at the further end of homeschooling. I only have one that I'm still, will say, legally responsible for when it comes to homeschooling, and he is 17, and we're heading into his senior year of high school here. So the other two are 22 and 20, and they have been done for a couple of years. And our young adults are living and thriving. And I'm married to my husband, James, for 24 years. And yeah, it's a little bit about me. I enjoy, being outside. I enjoy working out and all that kind of stuff. But I just, at this season of life, is a lot of focus on my kids and just kind of helping and support them in their roles. But then with doing this, I've realized in the past couple of years I need to take my own health into my own hands.
Yes, all of a sudden they become older, they become grown. Now it's a little bit of time for mom, and you want to put your health first, and you are busy. I love that you homeschool. I think that that is super cool, super interesting. So, what did your eating, health, fitness, physique journey look like prior to counting macros? I mean, maybe start with your bad habits or your younger years, and then lead into your journey now.
Yes, I mean, we'll have to go way back. I will say that I'm 49 now. I'm not ashamed of that, but just kind of give you some perspective of where I am at and probably what the diet culture was like when I was younger. I grew up, my mom, I look back now and I can see that she struggled with weight, but she never put that on me, which is such a blessing. And I use that model with my daughter and never and I wasn't nitpicky about myself when I was raising her when she was young. But so then I go off to college. And what happens when you go off to college? Now, everybody says a freshman 15, but I know I put on at least 20 and probably by the end of college, 25, 30 pounds and just was embarrassed by it and didn't know what to do. And eventually, over the course of a couple of years, and before my husband and I got married, I ended up dropping that weight, but not in a healthy way. And it was just not eating and stress and all that. You're planning a wedding and everything. But then started to have kids and just that up and down of the weight and constantly just looking at the scale and just wanting that to move. And it just knowing that I guess now I can look back and I can say, okay, you were exhausted because you're probably eating too many carbs. You weren't moving. You weren't doing all of these things. So mostly the bad habits were just I just didn't know. And even though social media gets such a bad rap, I've been able to find you. I've been able to find so many amazing accounts and information. And I feel like I'm armed with so much more information right now. And let's go back to the college that and I because I tell my kids and I use a lot of this my experience to teach them so that they now know they can make my daughter's 22. She can make some really good decisions about how she can fuel her body and feel good and not fall into some of these diet traps. But one of the stories I tell them is that during that time, the like no fat or zero fat was in, and I said I went and bought a pound cake because it said it was like an Entenmann's. I just remember it was like in a white box, and it was probably a bigger size than they even sell now, and it was a no fat pound cake, and I was like, cool, I could eat that because there's no fat in it. I ate the whole thing in one sitting. And that just kind of described like how I approach things. I didn't know there could be a balance. I didn't know that fat was, it was demonized. It was a bad thing. And so you wanted to avoid that, but then not showing you what to replace it with and not to say, hey, let's start with some protein. That's a big eye opener when it comes to macros and realizing I think that most women way under eat protein. I remember when I very first started learning about that, I would be sitting there. My husband was like, you're going to be sick. I'm just trying to get it more in because I was probably eating maybe in a day 40 to 50 grams of protein, a total. I would avoid protein. I didn't think it was anything very important, but my mind has greatly shifted about that.
Yes, it's very eye-opening. It's very educating. And I think that your story just will resonate with so many people because as you were speaking, I'm 47, same thing. My mom tried with the kids and she was trying on her own to do her own thing, but not push it onto us. And then just us as moms now being great role models for our daughters, super duper important. And you said it right there. 99% of the world is probably not eating enough protein. And as we age, that's super important. So, were there any diets that you tried before other than kind of what you have already mentioned?
I think I probably tried most of the, like, we'll say big name diets. And I probably quit after a day or so because I was feeling so weak because I'm like, okay, one chicken breast and a little bit of broccoli or some lettuce, that's not going to sustain me, especially since I was probably consuming so many calories. It wasn't just a little deficit. It was a huge thing. So it just, all of those diets make you just more hungry and makes you just view changing your eating habits negatively. And so probably I have tried most of the things, the Atkins, the South Beach, and I don't even remember all the names. Anything anybody would say, like, oh, this gimmick. I mean, I go onto YouTube to watch something and there's some doctor, they know my algorithm, my algorithm knows me. And it's like, here, you want to lose weight, you just have to do this. And I'm like, no, it's more than that, but it's yeah. So I would say I probably have tried most of them, but mostly my mindset and what I was taught was the diet was a little important, but just do more cardio. Do more cardio, do more cardio, do more cardio. You need to do 2, 3 hours of cardio a day, and then that will help. And my journey of needing to lose some weight was like I think I was around 46 or so. I noticed around that time just putting on weight. I ended up putting on 30 pounds between like ages of 46 and 47 and didn't know why. Couldn't explain why. I mean, I look back now, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe perimenopause and hormones and all of those things. And so that was the big push of me wanting to lose some weight. I started to be introduced to strength training, and really that was about 2 years ago. And I was like, okay, I was always scared of weights because that's what guys do. Girls don't pick up weights because you're going to get bulky, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like 2.5 years in, and I'm like nowhere near bulky. Now I have a 17 and 20-year-old young men, and it for them working out 2.5 years going to the gym, yeah, they're getting bulky. It's just as different. You're not going to get bulky, and
Yeah.
but my muscles have gotten stronger, and they are more defined, and I can tell just from my regular day to day that I've gotten stronger. So I love the strength training. I love a good workout like that, and so yeah, so I was had worked through doing a deficit about a year and a half, 2 years ago or so to drop a bit. But when I was introduced to you, I had that, that I just need 5 to 10 more pounds. We all have that. And so that's kind of where I was at when you and I were cross paths.
Yes, yes. So those non-scale victories are huge, stronger, more defined, and not concentrating so much on that darn scale. So, what finally made you decide to try macro counting with me?
Yeah, so I was familiar with what a deficit is. I knew that there's protein was important. I knew now going into it, like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I would hear the word macro. I had no idea. A lot of just self-education and learning and just understanding it takes time to process these things and to try it and be like, oh, okay, that's what that means. And I've read books and listened to podcasts and watched videos and just kind of absorbing a lot of it. And so I had put on that 30 pounds, was feeling really awful about myself. I look back probably to 2023. That was at the end of 2023 that I worked with another coach, and I'll explain a little bit how the systems and stuff were a bit different. And just in 2023, there aren't many pictures of me on my phone when I go back and look because I hid. I didn't want to be in photos. I knew that I wasn't. I felt awful about myself. I knew that I couldn't get up off the ground well. And so when I started then strength training in the very beginning, it was just strength training. And I didn't realize the component of diet and that you can exercise all you want, but I was getting stronger, but you couldn't tell because I
Right.
still was carrying around a lot of extra weight. And so I did work with another coach, and her system was good. It really helped me. It was more. Um, it wasn't as simple as yours, your kiss. It
Yeah.
wasn't as simple. And so for a year and a half, I was like, well, I'd like to do another deficit just again to lose that extra 5, 10 pounds. And I was like, I don't want to go through that. It was stressful. Again, it worked, but it just was a lot. It was a lot more on me. It was a big commitment. And it was great to lose that. And so I heard about you through an Instagram influencer that I follow. And I was like, okay, well, I checked out your podcast. And like I said, I'd done a lot of research and I kind of know these terms. And so I listened to your podcast. I was like, okay, she's legit because people can be like, oh, I've got this great gimmick.
Right.
And so I listened to your podcast. And I was like, okay, no, she knows what she's talking about. She's not just telling me I need to drink, 2 cups of apple cider vinegar a day and then I'll be, at whatever weight I want to be.
Right.
Yeah. So I was just like, what bad thing do I have to lose by doing this? I mean, the only good thing would be that I would lose weight. There wasn't really any negative. The only negative would be if I signed up and then quit. That would be the negative, but that's all on me. That was my choice to then quit. And I felt like it at a couple times. We could talk about that too.
Yes. Yes, you know me. The only way to fail is to quit. The absolute only way. So tell us a little bit about your results. Talk about your inches lost, pounds lost, but really focus on those non-scale victories.
Yeah, so I said I wanted just that 5 to 10 pounds. And so I lost 7 pounds. But the bigger thing was I guess I didn't figure in my mind was still so focused on the scale, and how that and that's a number. It's a number to I still will probably continue to track that just to kind of see, what kind of happens and use it as a metric among many other things. But then I ended up losing 9 inches, which I hadn't thought about the inches at all. It just but you would think, wait, if you're especially you're losing fat, that takes up a lot of space. And so if you're shedding that, then you're losing inches. And so my goal going into this was that I wanted my shorts that I had from last year that I had bought probably the beginning of maybe last year. They fit and it was appropriate to wear out, but I just knew by the end of the summer I just wasn't super comfortable in them. So my goal was to fit well into those because I didn't want to go buy new shorts. So we'll say there was a one negative effect and that some of those shorts are too big. And so I'm like, okay, so I mean that's not a bad. I was like, I have a bad problem, a bad issue here, that
Right.
it's not necessarily bad, it's just how you frame it. I was like, some of my shorts are too big. Some of my dresses, like my sundresses that felt fine last year, look a little bulky on me right now. So I guess I have to go shopping and get some other things.
Right. Now you have to spend money on new clothes, but better than having to buy bigger ones.
Yes, there's nothing more just I guess I mean we shouldn't feel shame for it. It's just as a process that we go through. But going and buying when I put on that 30 pounds and had to finally admit I'm not fitting into my stuff. and having to go and buy that Christmas that I put on a lot of weight. I didn't even have a dress to wear to Christmas Eve service. And so I wore jeans and found a blouse. And I look back at those pictures now and I just remember feeling just so down about myself. But I was like, I felt down, but I've gotten to that other side. I've broken that and I feel so much better. And the system that you use is, I say it's simple because there really are just a couple of key things, but it's not easy. It's hard in the way that you have to do the work.
Right.
And and again, it will work if you do the work. And there were some times that I wanted to. I started off with, the 8 week shred. I was like, yeah, let's do it. This is going to be great. And I was high as a kite the first week. And then it got hard. And I was like, I don't want to be hungry or feeling a little bit hungry. And then I really had to work through what is hunger. And I was like, my hunger isn't in my stomach. My hunger is in my brain. And I was like, okay, you're just feeling like you want to eat. What is the reason that you want to eat? Is it you're trying to escape from something, or it's a habit that I would just eat at something at this time, or trying to delay, or trying to put off, you're procrastinating doing something that you need to do. Like for me, it's making a bunch of phone calls or something. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to make these phone calls. I'll go,
Yeah.
eat something. And then you'll say, well, it's a healthy thing. It's just a protein bar. I'm like, okay. And some of them, the ones I buy for my kids have a little bit more sugar, but they're for my boys. Like they work outside and it's fine for them, but I don't need to be eating a couple of those every day. So it was really just reframing my mind and just confronting some issues of maybe some gluttony, even though maybe outwardly I might not look like I'm gluttonous or something. I'm just craving food and I'm craving just that hit in my brain that it would give me.
Yes, the dopamine hit that we talk about. And I think that's what is a little bit different about me. We dig deep. I say we need to yank out that root because if we just pop the top off of the weed, it grows back. So I love that you really did the mind work, the brain work that we do, inside of the shred. So how do you feel now?
I feel really good. I feel good and confident. I feel like, okay, I have some muscle definition. All this work that I've been putting in for 2.5 years now of strength training, I'm like, okay, some of it's paying off. I am sleeping better because I think before I was typically snacking in the evening. I wasn't necessarily hungry. And that was a habit that I had to break. Now, if I eat enough during the day, I really am fine and I'm
Right.
eating dinner at an appropriate time. And my body has time to digest everything. And so and of course, I'm just tired anyway, strength training and then walking. I do a lot of steps and walking. And so, yeah, so the confidence for that, it was good for me to break some of those bad habits. I feel freer on the other side, more freedom, like, okay, I don't have to give into this. And also, there were a couple things I was like, well, I don't want to give this up. So I love to make a latte just at home each day. And I still did that through the entire shred, but I planned that in.
Yes.
And I would work my other meals. I was like, okay, if you're going to have this, then lunch has to be a lighter lunch. And I found some lunch recipes, some things that would work and would balance that out so that I didn't feel like I was giving up everything. So I knew that I could have that. And so that was like my, time during the day. I'm like, okay, yes, enjoy this. So it's not that you have to give everything up. If you wanted to eat that cookie, that's fine. But it's also thinking, okay, because there were some times that this is a lot of mind work, I think, for me. It was
Yes.
good. There were some times that because during the shred that I did, there was Easter, there was Memorial Day, we did some traveling, and I would overindulge and I just felt crummy afterwards. And
Right.
so that was like, okay, that wasn't really fun. I didn't sleep well that night. And I was like, that just really wasn't worth it. And so I started to realize it's okay to have that one. Or sometimes for me, I just have to be like, no, I'm good. I know that I ate enough today and I don't need to continue eating.
Right. So you gave the $1 million tip, the pre-tracking, anything that you want, you make it fit in. So that latte was your jam. That's what you were going to fit in daily. That's what you enjoy. And then also, everybody overeats. And if you can just think before you overeat, how do I want to feel after the fact? And that part is hard. So that's the mind work that, you worked through. And I'm so proud of you for, just not thinking, because you can make it into a diet. You could. But we really stress the mind work, which is different. So, What is one takeaway that you would want anybody listening to absorb that's kind of on the fence? Perhaps they're hemming and hawing, it's all the things, right? Don't have time, don't have money, going on vacation. They struggled during COVID, so they've gained weight, they stopped working out, they stopped running, they feel lost, they can't stay on track. What would you tell somebody if they're on the fence?
I would go back to the what's the worst thing that you could lose? I mean, the best thing is you lose some weight, you lose some inches, and you grow in confidence, you feel more comfortable, you have more energy. And it was just making that commitment. The thing that was holding me back, I was like, okay, there is a cost, there is a financial cost to it. And to be honest, I don't like accountability. It just is something I tend to shy away from. But I know that when I have some accountability, and I wasn't perfect at staying accountable to you, but I knew that the cost of it held me accountable. I was like, well, then you just wasted this money. I mean, yeah, it was my decision. So it just kind of kept constantly coming back to, well, are you going to make this the best of this? So I would say it's not going to hurt you in any bad way. You're going to walk away with a lot of skills. So the skills and the things that I learned, I can apply from here on out. And I can then also, like I was saying earlier, teach my daughter and show her as she then grows and maybe has a family and after babies and is feeling like, oh, like, well, how can we support you postpartum and how can we, walk through this? So she's got a lot of great mind tools now, which I'm really excited about. And I would just say think in terms of time. I thought to myself, if I start this now, how am I going to feel or look at? So when I started, it was, I guess, was it April then? Maybe it began.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, how am I going to feel at Memorial Day? Like, I just thinking of like in those types of terms. And then about a month after that, I had a graduation party I was going to. And I was like, okay, so you'll be feeling better then. And so I just kind of kept thinking in terms of time. So just thinking, what's the worst? You can do it. Just say, okay, I'm going to commit to this. Just pay attention to those first 4 weeks and just how am I going to feel in these 4 weeks on this certain day or something? And then, okay, I'm starting to notice some change. Now, for me, I didn't notice the scale changing for at least a couple of weeks. It was probably about a month or so into it. It maybe had gone down maybe 2, 3 pounds at the most. And I was like I feel different. So I got out my measuring tape and I measured myself and I was like, oh, I've lost 4 or 5 inches. So it's not just the scale, it's the inches as well. So I would say focus on how good will you feel in X amount of time? And to me, it was worth it.
Yes, breaking it down into time. As you know, we like to habit stack in small steps. So if you can think ahead 4 weeks and think ahead 8 weeks, how you want to feel. One of my most favorite things that you just talked about was, bleeding into the next generation. And that's really where my heart is. I want to change the dieting mentality. You have all the tools in your toolbox that you're now teaching your daughter, and then she can teach her children. So just super excited that you even mentioned that. So perhaps you can relate to Lee. If you are self-sabotaging every weekend, you can direct message me, all right, to get started. If you want that belly fat gone, the fluff gone, you want to get rid of the dieting mentality, you need to work on your mindset, let's get rid of all that together. So this is how I can help. Right now, I'm offering a monthly membership package. So it does start with a consult. It's about 45 minutes, and then you have immediate access into the Clubhouse membership. So we work a framework for you. So step-by-step instructions for how to set up the app. I give you custom macros. We do your history review. I give you macro suggestions. I give you workout suggestions. I give you a macro-friendly meal plan. It's just an example. Macro-friendly cookbook, grocery list. Within the clubhouse, we have live coaching calls monthly. There are check-ins, accountability. Like Lee said, maybe she doesn't want to be held accountable, but I will hold you accountable. And like she said, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to check in every week, but she did not fail because she did not quit. So group accountability, I can adjust your macros. All my private grocery hauls, clickable recipes that shoot right into the app. We're doing a big month in July here. We're going to do the July chisel. So we just have a lot of fun in there. And if you're thinking of joining the shred in the fall, there's $100 off and you can cancel anytime. So like Lee says, like, what's it going to hurt? Right? What's it gonna hurt? You can head over to Kelly Counts Macros, counts with a K.com to access it and to get more details. But thank you, Lee. Where can we find you at if anybody's interested in following your homeschooling story?
Yeah, so if you're listening on a podcast, then I assume you enjoy podcasts. You can go whatever podcast app you're on. You can find me at Little by Little Homeschool. I have my website is littlebylittlehomeschool.com. Facebook, so Instagram are both the same. YouTube, if you prefer to listen to podcasts on YouTube, but anything would be Little by Little Homeschool.
Okay, you are the best role model for your family. You're an inspiration to all the mamas out there. I've just seen your confidence skyrocket. You're comfortable in your own skin. So I thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for all that you do. It really was a blessing for me. And I feel like I have a lot of tools in my tool belt now going forward.
Oh, good. Well, you were a blessing to me, as all my clients are. All right. Have a good day.
Mhm.